All right, away we go here on this Thursday. It is December the 12th, 2019. Let that sit in and marinate for a little bit. We are T-minus what? I don't even know math here. 19 days and counting till the end of 2019. We'll usher in 2020. We're excited. Plenty of opportunity, though, to profit before the end of the year, certainly in college hoops. And it starts with subscribing here to the Happy Hour Tip-Off Show. It is powered by WagerTalk.com. I'm Joe Raineri. He is Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com. Of course, last night, big night in college hoops there, a little over 20 games. And, Ralph, listen, when it's all said and done, we only got 5 undefeateds, I believe, that are left in college basketball this year. And then every damn big-name blue blood we get seems to fall out of favor. A couple of upsets again last night, Ralph.
Yeah, those 5 undefeateds. Before we get into those, let's remind our viewers, Joe, tonight's a very limited card because of finals. Tomorrow's a very, very limited card because of finals. The schedule gets back to normal, so we're going to be dark tomorrow on Friday. There's no reason to go over 2 or 3 games, but next Monday we'll be back. The schedule's back to normal, and then our routine every Monday through Friday, boom, you'll be catching a lot of great college basketball action.
Yeah.
You're right. 5 undefeateds: Ohio State, Auburn, San Diego State, Duquesne, and Liberty.
Duquesne,
Duquesne. And again, this is the team I've been on. Keith Hambut is the guy that coached at Akron, and I followed him in the MAC closely. But let's put it in perspective. They have played the number 326 schedule.
Yep.
And the top team they've played was number 118 Indiana State. So, again, we're going to take Duquesne with a grain of salt. But the funny thing is, Joe, I'm in a college basketball pool here with a lot of the with a lot of the sports book directors, and Kenny White runs it. For those that don't know, a great handicapper, has a lot of great power ratings. So we're in a pool where we draft teams.
Yes.
And, it just depends on wins. So, number one, you want to take teams that are going to be good and get to the tournament and play extra. And number two, I went with a lot of mid-major teams that are going to reel up a lot of wins in conference play, but I had a little trouble now. Duquesne was one of my I project them to win 23 games, win a couple games in their tournament, get to a CBI or an NIT, maybe even the NIT the way they're going. So Duquesne easily could be a 25-win team this year. So that's perspective. I mean, there's times where an AD and a head coach get together and say, hey, let's play a weak schedule and let's get our kids some confidence. Baylor's done it all the time, and there's some teams that used to do it, and I think it works out perfectly for them this year.
Yep, it absolutely does, and it has thus far. And we take a look, of course, last night at some of these games here, Ralph. Some of the upsets of the night, and again, 3 upsets of dogs of 2.5 points or more, as you can see on the card. And we talked about that game there at the bottom there, Ralph. Cal, Fresno State, did we not? We thought that was going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I like Cal. Unfortunately, I had the under, and anytime you have an under of 128, 129, you're always going to have to worry about it. But it's one of those situations. Cal's up 8 with like 18 seconds to go. The game is 5, 6, 7 points under the total. And the Fresno State kid comes down and hits a long 3. So, he doesn't hit the 3, you don't foul, you have an easy under. You hit the 3, that keeps him in the game. Then they foul. Cal makes both free throws. You make another basket. You foul again. And all of a sudden the game goes over by 3. So that's part of the concerns. But really, biggest upsets is in quotation because you see the biggest upset was by a 4.5-point dog.
Exactly correct there. Troy, Jacksonville State. You had UMass, too, was another team we were laughing at last night. And, they end up coming away there 72-66. So it wasn't a crazy upset night. And I won't consider, we talked about Rutgers and Wisconsin. That kept going back and forth from a pick-em all day long. And I don't know what it is about East Brunswick, but Wisconsin can't win in Jersey. I don't know what the hell it is, Ralph.
Joe, that's a little misleading there on the team because that was actually UMass Lowell.
Oh, Lowell, that's right, yes.
NGIT.
Yeah.
UMass was way down to Yale
Right.
fought back, got into overtime, and ended up only losing by 3 at home in overtime.
Yes.
Yale was a short home favorite, but Yale had a big lead in that game and lost it late.
Yeah, it was actually, I was so happy for that overtime because I took the second half over of 74 there, Ralph, and they only scored 65 in the second. So thank goodness for overtime between those two teams. So that worked out actually pretty well. But yeah, New Jersey IT and UMass Lowell, absolutely.
You know what? How about this, Joe? You had good fortune with your total in overtime. I had bad fortune. You want to split those two and we'll divide the money between.
I'm in. You ain't got to convince me, Ralph. I'm in 50-50. We're done. Ain't no Dutch here on this show. Absolutely not. There were also a couple of big-time performances, of course, last night. Some of the names we like to throw your way each and every show so you can see them because there's a good chance, of course, we'll be talking about these guys all throughout the season. And right there, look at that. Trey Mitchell there, UMass at Yale, 24, 9-5, 3-3. Unbelievable effort there. It was a fun game. You're right. It was a great game. We weren't sure. UMass hadn't played anybody, and yet, Yale comes in there and they give them the fight of their life.
Yeah, going back and just mention the guy at the top of the list, Jabri Blunt. We mentioned his name before. This kid does not leave the court. I mean, if there's ever a team that counts on a guy, I think he's played 90-some% of the team's minutes so far, which is unheard of. So you're talking about a guy that has to be on the court for Central to have any success at all. And, 25 minutes, 31-12, and 5 steals. So it just goes to show you, yes, he was playing a lower division team. I think they're an NAI team. But, if you're ever going to play Central and you see Jabri Blunt with a questionable after his name, it's either pass or take the other side.
I'm not sure if that's Christian dominatrix or maybe that's just the way I'm looking. So in other words, we'll just pass over that one. How about LeVar Batts Jr.? We talk about them a lot, too. We've talked about him in the past, too, at UNC Asheville. How about this? 39 minutes, 40 points, Ralph, 3 assists, 1 steal.
Yeah, and, it was in there wasn't an overtime effort. So, the minutes there, but you look at, you look at him again and you see the box score and that was in a 40-point loss. Yep. They only scored 85 total in overtime. So, I think he's pretty important to the offensive the offensive prowess of Asheville there.
Absolutely. Avery Sullivan, you had Lamar there, 37 minutes there, 24 points, 16-2-1-1, and Bothwell Furman over North Greenville as well. So some of these names really starting to keep popping up here on these top performance lists here, Ralph.
Yeah, and again, it's so important just to hear names. And, you're not going to know. I mean, Joe, there's people that study this full time and you can't know every player. But again, the key is just to recognize the key players if they're banged up, if they're hurt, if you're watching a game live and they get ejected, all of a sudden, boom, those are live betting situations that you can benefit from.
Yep, and of course, we take a look at the largest covers there last night, both against the spread and the totals, and you start up in that green area there against the spread there, Ralph, and like there was ever a doubt with Arizona taking on, was it Nebraska-Omaha, I believe they were going against last night, and I don't think Nebraska-Omaha has won a game outside of their area in a long time, especially against Arizona. It was just too much for them. Hell, 29. The line was 20, Ralph. The damn line was 20.
Yeah, well, how often do you see a team double a team? Well, they were 1 point short for doubling them up. So pretty sure if you double up a team and score, you're going to make the top of our largest ATS covers list.
Yeah. Dartmouth, Maine going on there also. Another one, 3.5, turned out to be 25.5. And Kansas State, too, pretty impressive effort there last night.
Yeah, Alabama State, a bottom team from the SWAC, and their only win is against Chicago State. So that puts it in perspective because we know where Chicago State is on the list. So, but again, there's times, there's certain bad teams when they're put in a favorites role that I like playing on. Just because you're a bad team doesn't make you a bad favorite.
Correct.
You're just an overmatched team, but when you're playing someone of equal value or lesser value and you're put into that favorites role, there's teams that play very poorly in that role, and there's some teams and coaches that play very well in that role.
Yep. There was a game yesterday, too. It was interesting. Arizona State versus Prairie View there to the over there, Ralph, which was interesting because there was a crazy stat about Prairie View, going to Arizona. They don't fly, so it's like an 800-mile bus trip or something along those lines. And every time we've had, teams that had to travel that distance, their record was putrid. And the line was, I believe, close to 20, somewhere along those lines. And look at that. They end up scoring 79 points, and the damn thing goes over.
Prairie View doesn't fly? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, apparently, yes. Apparently, it's a bus trip, and every time they have to go a certain, and I believe it's actually not. It's not as close as people think it is. It's like an 800-mile trip, and their record is abysmal when they have to travel that kind of distance. And yes, Arizona State was supposed to win that game by easily by double digits, and that didn't work out.
Yeah, Prairie View to Tucson is 15 hours.
That's correct. And the record is abysmal, Ralph.
But, they just went to California.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they drove they played at Texas last Friday, and they drove to California on Monday.
That's correct. They've been on the road is what they said there. That's how that's been working.
So they're going now. Today's Wednesday.
Right.
So they're driving to play Loyola Marymount in L.A.
That's correct. Yes, they're on their way.
Another 5-hour drive.
That's correct.
Then they're driving to Colorado.
That's correct. Yeah.
And then they're driving to Seton Hall. They can't be driving from L.A. to Colorado Seton Hall. There's got to be.
I don't think. Yeah, there's got to be a flight somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But I believe they started out in Houston, where Prairie View is, just outside of Houston. And then that was a trip to Arizona State first, and then from there is where they were going. So I think it was SWAC teams against the spread in the last 8 years, if you include travel. And we're looking about 900 miles worth of road trips taken, somewhere around that 16 hours and 26 minutes, Ralph. The numbers are 7-28-1 against the spread.
Well, Joe, you taught me something there because
yes.
I didn't know that. So I will certainly be looking. And guys, if you watch the show next week, we will certainly keep you apprised of
yes.
the Prairie View travel situation.
And if you ever needed to know, from Prairie View to Arizona State and you want to go to the Tempe campus, 16 hours and 26 damn minutes is what it's going to take you. But apparently SWAC teams aren't the best when they have to travel long distances, Ralph.
Well, again, they are the poorest of teams. That's
right.
That's why they play the Celebration Bowl that first day. They don't even go into the FCS playoffs because they don't have the money to travel to play in the playoffs. So,
right.
Even in football, but I have to California that they have to say, well, you have to get our flight and give us this much money. Because, you're making money, not like, football, you have these road games where the MAC teams play the Big Ten, and they're up to like $1 million now. So a lot of schools need those games to play. So, I have a little project to look at next week.
That's it.
So.
Keep an eye on SWAC and travel. Not very good when they got all that traveling, apparently. But like you said, that's how they make money. They go and they play these teams, and that's how it works, both football and basketball.
Yeah, no question. There are schools that are going to be over because they have to play that schedule to get enough money in their coffers. And, the monies they get in is split. It's not like they get, all the money. And they also are taking a hit because there's so many FBS football programs. Also. The Pac-12, you can't play an FCS team anymore. The Big Ten, you can't play them. There's only so many SEC teams where you can get a one of those big money games in to go travel to play them. And hell, the way the SEC's going, they're getting some crap from playing those games. They may eventually eliminate them. So there's going to be a lot of trouble for, this is a whole nother topic, but there's going to be some trouble for FCS programs, especially SWAC programs, because they rely on that $1 million. It's a big part of their budget.
Yeah. And listen, it's, they did a great job too yesterday. That's why a lot of people were just banking on them. They were back in her Hurley and Arizona State. It's going to be and they dropped 79 points on the road in Arizona State there, 88-79. Hurley and company had their hands full there last night with Prairie View, so good for them.
Well, yeah, and Prairie View just beat UTSA. UTSA
yes.
to me is the number one head-scratching team in the country. They returned both senior starting guards. They have the highest scoring guard combination in the country.
Yep.
They were a veteran squad. Steve Henson was their coach. They were a team last year that went 17-15, but played an early 5-game stretch, which was brutal. They lost all those, so they went 17-10 down the stretch. And this year they're 3-6. Fortunately, I'm going to go back and just tell a quick story on that pool that we'd had. In the beginning of the season, UTSA was one of my top teams to draft in the pool. Fortunately, we didn't draft until a week into the season, and they were already 0-3, and I saw some of their problems, so nobody drafted them. But that's how high I thought of them early in the year. Yeah,
there's no reason for it, especially when you can return that much firepower. It is a bit head-scratching. There's a lot of teams like that this year, Ralph. We'll go back to it. I mean, if you're just joining college basketball, you're settled in now that college football's over. You're getting ready for bowl games, and you're starting to peek in on college hoops. Certainly hope you guys will follow this show Monday through Friday. Limited card here tonight and tomorrow because of finals, but we'll be back full board there coming up on Monday. But there aren't, if you're waiting for that great team or two teams like we've had in years past here with the Zions and the Barretts and these teams that are loaded, or the loaded Kentucky they're just not there this year, Ralph. We just, to me, come March, talk about wide open. I mean, I don't want to use the word Cinderella, but damn, if there was ever going to be a year, why not this year?
Yeah, if you ever want to take a shot at a future, I'm not big on futures because the hold is so big, but there realistically are, I don't know, 16, 18, maybe 20 teams this year into the mix, and. While people say, oh, that's always, no, it's not. I mean, realistically, by January 1st, you're probably down to 8 teams that can win. And, you look at a team like Texas Tech that got there. When we got to January 1st last year, people think Texas Tech came out of nowhere, where I'm looking back at the Ken Palm sheets.
Right.
On January 1st, Texas Tech was Ken Palm's number 10 team.
Yeah.
So, it's not like they came out of nowhere.
They weren't 25th.
They started off, you started off the season ranked,
right,
and you were number 10 by January 1st. So, I'll still wait because the futures aren't going to change much now. And if someone wins a few games, it doesn't hurt you. I'll wait till January, make sure everyone's healthy going into conference play, and then lock down a few future bets just to have some fun on some of these guys this year. But I don't know if it's a year. There's not really any mid majors out there.
Right.
The Butlers. I don't count Gonzaga.
Wofford. There's no Woffords that are bombing away from threes again. Nothing like that.
We thought Nevada last year, but hell, they finished. They were AP top 10 to start, so they weren't a surprise. So I don't know who the best group of 5 team is. And again, I am not counting Butler or Gonzaga in the mix,
right?
Because they have been there and done that, and I don't count them as regular.
Almost not fair, right? Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. Dayton is probably one of the best teams.
There you go.
Houston maybe has a chance, but that's what you're looking at. You're looking at a lot of blue bloods with a lot of good teams, and it's gonna be down where. We're going to see a lot of great March Madness games because anything's going to be able to happen in the brackets.
And all these names we keep going through on this show here, guys, these kids are going to keep getting better and better, and they're really going to start to stand out. And, while last year it was, guys like Zion and Barrett and company would have been on, every, Jared Cole, they all would have been there, on the list pretty much every week. But there's just – We haven't seen that. We don't have that. Why Cole Anthony is great in North Carolina. He's got no support, Ralph. He can't do it all himself. And, North Carolina's scoring 50 points a game right now. Like, what the? It's just that kind of year right now. It's not as top-heavy, I think, as it has been in years past.
Yeah, and that has to do, with the recruiting as well. You saw Wiseman go to Memphis.
Yep. Who's coming back, by the way.
Right. Anthony Edwards goes to Georgia.
Yep.
I mean, he's a top 5 player. Wiseman's a top 5 player.
Yep.
So, if those guys went to Duke or North Carolina, then boom, they have 2 or 3 top 5 stars.
Yep.
But because those guys went, that's part of the reason we don't have that dynasty team up top this year.
Yeah, and it's actually refreshing. It's nice because it's certainly good. Gives you guys an opportunity, gives all of us an opportunity to be able to profit this year without having to look at these a handful of teams and going, it's them again. The Blue Bloods will be the Blue Bloods, but there's a lot of teams in between this year that are going to make some noise, and they've been making some noise already. And now would also be a good time, folks, for Ralph to start to start looking. Ralph, you mentioned conference play come January. We're starting to see how hard it is to win on the road, are we not, with some of these kids like Wisconsin and Michigan on their way to Illinois? These Big Ten teams, they get their first big true road test. Maryland and they can't win on the road, Ralph. You got to learn how to win on the road, don't you?
Yeah, again, I say that all the time when you have a team that's an away favorite that hasn't played.
Yeah.
Number one, you have to learn to win on the road before you learn how to cover on the road. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the reason we only have 4 undefeateds, too. Why? Mm-hmm. We've seen the Big Ten play back-to-back conference games. We saw the ACC play conference games. We saw the Mountain West play conference games.
Yep.
Because of the schedule this year, and, we had the extra bowl week, but that's, how we had the 2 byes in football because of the way the calendar's set up. So this schedule's weirder. So, that's part of it too. Teams like Rutgers and Illinois, we talked about them yesterday. When those teams are making your first road trip and you're going into venues like that, it's not easy to win. Nope. So, Joe, there's only a handful of games. Anything in the market on any of those games tonight?
Yeah, I'm looking around here, Ralph, and I mean the 2 games that really seem to be getting the most I would say hype, of course, is when you look at NIU Grand Canyon, 2 teams, Ralph, that we've talked about a lot here on the show over the month and a half here, which shouldn't be any surprise. We just talked about Northern Iowa, in fact, a couple of days ago. Grand Canyon, that's a game getting a lot, as is Iowa State. I don't know, is it the Corn Bowl? What do they call this now, Ralph, at this point in the year when you get the 2 Iowa teams getting ready to do battle? They might score 900 points in this game, Ralph. I'm not sure here.
They played for the Cyhawk in football,
right?
And so we'll just call it Cyhawk 2.
Cyhawk 2, man. It's the Cyhawk ball game. But that seems to be where most of the action is right now. And believe it or not, the number is, it's close to 160 here, Ralph. I do believe they think there's going to be points scored in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're talking about 4 games being played today, and that's why we'll be dark tomorrow, because it's just as light. Mm-hmm. But we're obviously not going to have the dogs and going through. But I will mention couple systems or angles, couple angles, team angles. Portland State playing, they've gone 8-2 ATS their last 10 at home. They've also gone 8-2-1 over their last 11 games. And Wright State's laying a boatload, but they are 8-2 at home. They've been a good covering team. One thing I want to mention is, while I'm not using it as a situational play because the way they've been playing so well, you can't have much of a tougher schedule than Northern Iowa going to Colorado, pulling the upset in a battle that went wire to wire, and then playing that altitude, and then 2 days later going down to Phoenix and playing Grand Canyon. So, that's a game where I wouldn't be surprised at all if Grand Canyon pulls out that win. They're a 6.5-point dog, but certainly, while it's not a situational play like in traditional when we have a full card, right, it's certainly a situation I'll look at. So,
it's got letdown written all over it. It really does.
Yeah, and those 2 days and 48 hours and coming off the altitude game.
Yep.
So, Grand Canyon is a team that has pace. Mm-hmm. They've slowed it down a lot this year relative to where they were because they have a lot of new guys. But, they're off a team where they haven't played many home games. Boy, they played Mount St. Mary's on Tuesday the 3rd. Then they played Liberty over in the Talking Sticks, a casino right outside of Phoenix there. So it's a big game for them.
And I will say this too: Grand Canyon University Arena, guys, is sneakily, you wouldn't know this, but it's a crazy home court advantage, Ralph. They are pretty crazy there. One of the best, I think it was voted one of the best mid-major student sections in all of college basketball. And get this, guys, they joined in 2013 Division I. They're 85-25 straight up at home, Ralph. You think there might be a little advantage for them to play home?
Yeah, it's GCU Arena.
Yep.
It's the seventh, about 7,000 people, and they'll fill it. So it is always a challenge. And who's the Phoenix guy who does USA Baseball? Colangelo?
Colangelo, yes.
Yeah, why did Illinois go play at Grand Canyon earlier this year, and why do they get big teams? Well, he's the reason. He's got a lot of pull with a lot of people, and while he's not involved with them, I mean, he's the Suns guy. He really is involved with Grand Canyon, so you'll see good teams make appearances there because of him. So he has that type of pull with it. So Joey, I don't have any best bets or leans. I'm passing tonight, but we got to at least talk about the main game on the board, right? Iowa State.
Yep. And tell me, I mean, I don't know, was there a trend or something that you found in this game here, Ralph? Outside of, listen, everyone seems to be talking, Big 10 versus Big 12 here, that this is going to be one of those situations where if they continue to shoot as good as they have shooting, Iowa, we could anticipate both of these teams being in the 80s, thus looking at an over situation here tonight.
Yeah, that's the only way I could go. I mean, Iowa's tempo isn't – Iowa State plays much faster than Iowa.
Iowa, yes.
Iowa is just so efficient. I mean, you got Garza, Weiskamp, Bohannon, McCaffrey, this coach's son, that you've got so many weapons and that's what you need. I mean, to be an elite offense, you need to have a guy that may not have his best night, but you've got other guys to pick him up, and that's exactly what they have. So, I think Iowa State is, more of a guard-oriented team. They don't traditionally play a big center. Solomon Young is 6'8", and Condon plays a little bit. He's 6'9" or 10, but they're going to have some trouble on the inside. My initial lean, I guess, just to give a lean here, I would lean Iowa, and I would lean over. But again, I'm not getting to the window with anything. I'm passing today. So on the day overall,
Iowa State coming off of that huge win over Seton Hall, and yeah, 5 points seems like a lot here too. I mean, I think these teams are a little bit more evenly matched than some might think. The underdog, by the way, 5-0-1 against the number in the last 6 meetings between these two teams, and I do think it's either over or nothing for me in this particular game as well, Ralph. But it should be. I think it's one of the only 1 of 4 games here on the card, guys. If you're going to watch one of them tonight, this could very well be the best game we've got, and at least some entertaining basketball to watch.
Yeah, one note, Joe, going back about the Iowa State win over Seton Hall.
Yes.
They had played them 10 days earlier, remember, in the Classic.
Yes,
so they had lost to Seton Hall.
Yep.
So they were playing at home with revenge from 9 days earlier. So a unique setting for them. So, again, we chatted, we BS'd a little bit. We told some stories, a very small card, dark tomorrow, but Monday, the schedule's back to normal, and we'll be back at it with our normal tip-off show.
Absolutely, guys. And, of course, anything you'd like to know moving forward throughout the season, hit us up in the comment section below. You can always hit Ralph there up on Twitter, at CalSportsLV. You can hit me up at Joe Raineri. Tell us what you want to know, what you want to hear, any information you'd like us to provide, and we will certainly do that. So if you're going to jump in tonight, good luck with the games. We'll be back, of course, on Monday, getting you ready for what is going to be another monster week in college basketball as we get ready for the holidays and we get ready for conference play. So make sure you head over to wagertalk.com. Plays available always, each and every day there. And make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Come back and join us on Monday. We'll get you ready for some more college hoops. So, Ralph, good luck to you, my man. Enjoy the week, enjoy the weekend, and we'll talk to you on Monday.
Joe, I normally say I'll see you in 23. I'll see you in 71.
Well, yeah, I wasn't going to do the math. You got it, Ralph. Appreciate it. Good luck, guys.